Thanks, Jim. I appreciate you inviting me. This is actually pretty exciting for me. Usually when I'm talking to a crowd, it's about safety systems and standards and all kinds of exciting engineering things. And this is the first time I get to talk about marketing, so it's going to be very interesting. And I have to admit, my brain's a little bit spinning from the last two presentations. They were very, very good, and leaves me with a lot of food for thought, kind of questioning whether I'm actually doing the right things. But I'm going to spend a little time here today talking about my experiences with marketing to engineers. And like Jim said, I am myself an engineer, so as I kind of talk about the challenges of marketing to an engineer, I include myself in that, so I don't want you to think I'm picking on any of you out there who are engineers. So let me get started here, if I can figure out the clicker. I want to talk a little bit first about why engineers are a tough crowd. Engineers aren't like normal people, and you can't really think of them as kind of normal human beings when you're figuring your marketing campaigns out. It's very important when you're working on marketing to anybody, I guess, about being clear about your objectives. And one of the main things I'm going to focus on is the critical importance of a marketing strategy. Over the years, I found that is probably the thing that holds us back the most, is not being clear about our strategy. Content is king. It's kind of interesting that all the speakers are talking about that. And I didn't even really know anything about the other speakers before I wrote this presentation. You will find, in a way, I'm going to be viewing content in a couple different ways. Content being kind of the stuff that we put out into the world, but also the kind of quality of the stuff, which is actually what is the most important thing when we're talking about engineers. The hairball, this is the thing that I showed to Jim, which is why he wanted me to talk in the first place, so I'll just leave it at that until later. And I'm going to talk about the results of the campaigns that I've actually been working on. And I want to just reiterate that I am not actually a marketing professional. I'm an engineer. I've had zero marketing training. I've only been to a few seminars, no classes. So everything I'm going to be talking about is really my practical experience and hard knocks, if you will, on actually trying to implement marketing campaigns over the past years. So this is not from textbooks, even though, strangely enough, it does a little bit line up with the kinds of things the professional marketeers were talking about. And if I could only run the clicker. All right, so engineers are a tough crowd. So how many of you are engineers, first of all? Okay, so some, that's good. So you'll understand what I'm talking about here. So for me, the thing that starts to make engineers more difficult than normal people is they really are seeking information. So even in something as simple as a print advertisement, engineers are still looking for information as part of that ad. They don't really care how pretty your picture is or how nice it looks. They really want information. And I think that is one of the things that makes marketing to engineers the most challenging, is you really have to have something to say that they find valuable. And that is kind of easier said than done. The other thing that I think is really kind of an issue at this particular moment in time is that engineers actually span generations at this point. Many engineers, and when I'm talking about engineers, from my perspective, I'm talking about process engineers, safety engineers, maintenance engineers, the kinds of engineers that are dealing with process equipment that you'll find in chemical plants, refineries, and what have you. So these are the very specific, special human beings I'm talking about when I'm talking about engineers here. And really one of the issues in our industry is that there aren't a lot of new, young kind of process engineers coming up behind the older ones. But there are some, but what you'll find is there's a lot of kind of baby boomers as well as the millennials, the younger ones. So they have all kinds of different experiences. They have different ways they want to get their information. The younger ones might be more open to social media. The older ones might like trade shows and magazines. And the challenge for a marketer is you can't just pick or choose one tactic or the other. You actually, at this point in time, have to do everything for all these guys, or and girls, or you won't reach your target audience. So I think that's a particular challenge when you're marketing to engineers. It's just the age range of the people involved. The other thing is it's not all about features and benefits. And Jim mentioned I work for ABB, and I'm specifically responsible now for our safety system business. And in safety systems, of course, it's like a lot of automation products. There's a list of features, and I have this I/O board and that voltage and this cell rating. And there is a certain amount of that people care about, but it's not all about that. They're not only looking for a feature-to-feature comparison of my product versus my competition's product. A lot of this is about trust and respect and who do they want to work with kind of over the long term. So it's more than just is your product suited for the use that they're looking for, because honestly, in the realm where I play, all the products are suitable and they're all kind of good enough. So what are engineers looking for? They're looking for a trusted supplier. So that, I think, is a little bit of a challenge in a way, because it's not as easy as it once was where I can just focus on my product. There's other things I have to think about now. And death of the poor trade show. I mean, back in the day when I first started working in the industry, it was all about the trade show. That's kind of the main way that people found out about new product offerings and things, is at trade shows and through the magazines. And things are very, very different now. Trade shows are all but dead. We all have our own user group meetings. And engineers have to pick and choose. If you're going to go learn about new things, it's not as easy as going to the ISA show anymore. So in a way, the internet, I think, has come to replace the generic industry trade show as a way to find information. And communications people don't get it. And if you're a communications person, I apologize. But what I mean by that is that there can be a lack of understanding. I know in our communications department at ABB, there is a complete lack of understanding about the things you have to do that are different when you're marketing towards an engineer than if you're marketing towards a consumer or somebody who's kind of less technical. There is somehow a lack of understanding and a lot of marketing speak that goes around in the pure communications arena. So I think there's an aspect of education, even for us, that has to go on internally to get everybody on the same page about what we're trying to do and why. And then, like everybody else, engineers are busy. I mean, they just don't have time to spend a lot of time searching for information. I think they start to have favorite places where they go, trusted resources to look to for advice. So all these things, I think, are what makes it a little bit more challenging to market to engineers. Now, I'm going to give you a couple of examples here, and throughout this presentation, there will be some examples of things that worked and things that didn't work. And I'm not really trying to pick on anyone here, but this is just to show a little bit of what I mean by, engineers are fussy and they're looking for content. This is the result of an ad study that was done in control engineering, on the control engineering April 2012 ad study. This one over here on the left was voted the most effective ad. And you probably can't see exactly what it is, but it has a nice picture of a product. It has some kind of technical information about the product and a few other views on these things, and then the contact information. This is Omega. Omega, time after time in every ad survey study, does very well. Now, this isn't really the prettiest ad in the world. It's not flashy, but it has the things that appeal to an engineer. It has a picture of the thing and kind of the features about the thing. So that gets very high ratings because that's what the target audience is looking for, information. This one, on the other hand, not to pick on these guys, but I will, have a mess. This is a hot mess. There is just stuff thrown on this page, and I know the control engineering guys are actually trying to get them to stop doing this. But this gets terrible results, and I guess you can all see why. So just to reiterate, I mean, in reality, according to what really happens here with these studies, the content does matter, and the engineers are picky. They really are. This is one of my own personal examples. So I do a lot of things, and some of them I do for testing out concepts, what works and what doesn't. This was a nice kind of short-term, effective little project I did with control engineering. And they're called quick polls. And somehow my finger, the quick polls. And quick polls are really cute. They're on the CFE website. And they're usually over here. There's one right there on the right-hand side. And it's just a quick question. Do you use a safety system in your plant? Yes or no? And I had a series of 4 of these things. And I was rushing around. I had to make up the questions at the last minute. Oh, my God. And didn't really take a lot of time to plan out what I was doing. It was just, I have to get this done to get it to Bailey so I don't miss my spots. That was what I was thinking. So I did one here. When was the last time you performed a hazard and risk analysis on your site? And I got 40 responses. Now, the thing I will say is these, there was 4 of these, and they ran, I don't remember, over a period of months for a few weeks each. They each got the same kind of promotion. It wasn't during the summer. It was during kind of October, November, December last year. So they were all kind of equally promoted. 40 responses on this thing. This one here, where do you anticipate the challenge in upgrading the safety system? 760 responses. Now, what I would say about this is a little bit of a stupid question, because a lot of people, even people involved in safety, might not know what a hazard and risk analysis is. It's a very specific question. It's like too specific is what I would say. If you're not a safety person, it's a too specific question. This one, where do you anticipate the challenge? And then we listed up 4 different challenges. Almost everybody voted for this one, following the applicable standards. But my view of this is, and I kind of checked with the CFE guys on this, was that this was kind of more applicable to a pain these guys were feeling. So I got a lot more direct interaction. So this is just kind of an Alicia-specific example of huge failure and much better. And to me, this comes back to you really just can't be lazy. You have to think it through. And I have a lot more on this coming up, but that's just one example. So as the next thing I want to talk about is you have to really be clear about your objectives here. And I just want to make a couple comments about marketing. I, as a vendor, spend money on marketing. And I guess how many of you work for a product vendor? Okay, so quite a few of you. So there's reasons why we all do this. To promote our products, that's a traditional reason we spend money on marketing. This is also the thing that our management hate more than anything, is spending money like that. We do it to generate sales leads, hopefully. We do it for thought leadership. We do it for awareness. So there's reasons like that. Traditionally, I and ABB focus mostly on product marketing. And I would say about 4 or 5 years ago, we started getting into using our marketing money to help us generate sales leads and to position ourselves a little better, especially in the United States, as a thought leader in particular areas, and to bring up awareness of ABB in general. We're a huge company, $40 billion, but we're mainly a European company. So if you were in Norway or Zurich, you would know exactly who ABB is. But in the United States, I would say not so much, and probably here in the Chicago area, probably not at all. So these are things that we were thinking about when we were trying to figure out how to spend our money. So these are just, I guess you probably all can, I'm doing this again, relate to the reasons why we do these things. But the other thing I would say is these are all valid reasons. I mean, I still have to do product marketing. Even though I'm very interested in thought leadership, you always have to do product marketing. That's the business that pays my salary. But there are challenges with each of these. So you have to know what your goals are. And I would say the most important thing, if I were to have one slide in this whole presentation, it would be that your marketing has to align with your business goals. And I've just been traveling around Europe this time as well and talking to some other ABB units about marketing their products. And the thing that stood out to me the most is they have no idea what their business goals are. They have no marketing strategy. And these are the 2 most important things you can do, because if you aren't lining up your marketing strategy with your business unit strategy, with your overall company strategy, not only will you fail, I mean, you'll be perceived as a failure by your management as well. You really have to make sure these things are aligned. And that's not to say that you have to have just one marketing strategy for everything. That certainly will never work. And in our particular case, I run a business that's like $200 million in size. So a very small business for ABB, and I have a particular marketing strategy that aligns all the way up the food chain with what ABB is trying to do, but it's very specific to the needs of my safety system business. It is not at all the same as the motors and drives guys or the Baldor guys or anybody else who has a different kind of product than I do. It's also not the same from the United States to Germany to Asia to Switzerland. So in different regions, depending on how well known we are, what's our installed base like, the marketing strategy has to be different. That being said, we have a global component to what we're doing. So I'll get into that a little bit more coming up. But one of the things we like to do is create our content globally and then make it such that it can be rolled into the regional marketing plans so that we don't have a difference of what's happening all around the world. Another factor here is resources and budget. And some people might say, oh, it's better to make a marketing strategy like the best case. So if I had all the money in the world and all the resources, here's my marketing strategy. And I would say that's a huge waste of time. You have to be realistic about what you can do. If you only have a budget that's $10,000, you have to figure out what's the right way to spend that $10,000. Don't waste your time putting together a whole list of things you want to do, knowing that you don't have enough people or money to execute your program. I know this sounds kind of basic, but I've seen it all over ABB where we have these grandiose plans, if we have a plan at all, but there's no way to ever execute. People, it's just impossible, and then people get demoralized, and then you start with your random acts of marketing, and it all goes downhill from there. So. Another thing I would say that's extremely important is to management expectations. You have to communicate your plan up to your management. You have to make sure they understand how it fits into your overall business strategy, and you have to regularly communicate your results. And to me, that's also a very important thing. Number one, have the strategy. Number two, let people know that you have the strategy and what is it. And then report back regularly on how you're doing. What tactics have you executed? What's been the effectiveness of that? And I actually send them a spreadsheet. I know that they don't open, but I send it anyway with each individual tactic in my campaign and the measurements for each month. So it might be clicks or downloads or visits, but I track them and I send them, and that way they can see that something's happening. So in my experience, management has this view that 50% of dollars spent on marketing is a waste, but they don't know which 50% it is. We all know that. So I like to keep on showing them that we are getting something for our dollars. Now, is it exactly what they want? Maybe it is and maybe it isn't, but at least we're measuring it and communicating it. And I think that's also extremely important when you're practically trying to run a marketing campaign and you want to make sure you get your money next year. It's very important to communicate. And then who's in charge? I find this a particular problem in my group. There's a lot of people that think they own the business of safety, like our product managers and our product line managers, the R&D guys, some regional guys, a couple segment guys. There's a lot of people who think they own the business. You have to be clear about who owns it, who owns the business, who owns the strategy, who is the decision maker. This needs to be clear. If it's not clear, then you have a lot of things happening in an uncoordinated fashion. And again, you have to be realistic. If you are working on getting more content, like I am working on currently, you have to understand your subject matter experts. Do they have the time to contribute? Are they native English speakers? Am I going to have to edit what they give me? I mean, you have to be very realistic about your situation, and you really have to plan accordingly. So these are things that I think help. If you can think about ahead of time, making your plan and then being realistic about it, I think it'll go a long ways towards being efficient and having your programs perceived in the right way by your management. So a little bit more about the marketing strategy, and I mentioned the random acts of marketing, so now I want to show you a random act of marketing. This thing here is something that a group that's closely related to mine decided to spend their time and money on. And as you can see, it's kind of ugly, and it communicates no message. It was expensive, it took a lot of time, and there it is. There's no value to it. It didn't support a message. It was just something someone somewhere thought was cool. And if I had the $10,000 that he spent on that, I can tell you I would have done different things. So that's something that you have to look out for as you're making your plan. But that's also one of the things that having a plan helps avoid. Make sure you get management support. And as I mentioned, most management guys will definitely support you if you have a very well-documented plan. It provides a lot of structure and focus, which when you're trying to do a lot with little money and few people, it's extremely important to be focused and structured. And as I was mentioning with a global rollout, this also helps drive consistency. So if you have a very specific plan, you stick to your plan, you roll it out globally and give the people in the regions the tools they need, you can drive consistency around the world so you don't end up with different messages coming back to you and a lot of confusion in the marketplace. One of the things that I have written into my marketing strategy is something about the measurable results. You really, I already mentioned this, it's extremely important to figure out what your measurements are going to be. It would be great if the measurement could be this many hot sales leads and for this much dollar value within this period of time. That would be fantastic. Reality is it's very hard to get from here to there. I have a couple cases where we've been able to do it, but like I said, step one is really just understanding for the money you spend, how much interaction or how many touches are you getting onto your target audience. So downloads, clicks, that kind of thing. Even though that's not kind of the end all and that's not what the marketing books tell you you should be after, it's a step along the way. And what I would say is that those steps, even though it might not be fantastically good data, it helps you get a view on what works and what doesn't work. Because when you're trying to do a lot with few people and a little bit of money, to know that I spent $20,000 on this and only got 6 people to look at it is extremely useful. And then you can decide, I don't want to do this anymore, I can do something else. So for me personally in my plan, I like to have a lot of kind of lower cost items that I can evaluate all the time and make decisions to keep them or lose them. And the ones that work, I'll do them again and again. And the ones that stink, I just get rid of. And so if you're structured and focused, you have the flexibility in a way to make those kinds of decisions along the way. I find that extremely helpful. The other thing is, as you're creating your strategy, is think about media partners. And by media partners, I mean companies like Control Engineering or a company I work with called ISS Source, have various partners. And one of the things I've done is I've kind of narrowed down the world of partners. In process automation, there might be 10, 15, 20 companies that you could consider partnering with this. But for my particular business, as I was creating my strategy, I had to really think about what am I trying to accomplish and who are the right people to partner with. The reason I like to have partners is because I am not a marketing professional, even though I've been doing this for all these years. I'm not on the forefront of it. I don't talk to as many people as the media partners do, and they bring a lot of insight and a lot of options to me. So one thing I like to do during the budget season every year is to get the partners in one at a time, sit down with them and say, okay, what's new? What are you seeing? What's working? What's not working for you? What new programs are you launching? If you're coming out with something new, maybe I want to sponsor that thing. So I kind of build the partners into my strategy in a way, and it really helps. I get a lot of the kind of new great ideas. Sometimes they don't have the ideas when they come to me, but the brainstorming we have during those meetings results in a new program, a change to something I'm doing. So I would say that's, to me, is extremely valuable, is to pick a couple partners that you really trust and utilize them. I mean, these guys aren't just ad salespeople. They really know what they're doing. They have Bailey, he doesn't know anything though, don't talk to him. But everyone except Bailey actually has a lot of knowledge and can be very helpful to you. So I'm going to show you a little sample of my strategy here. So for me, in my safety system business at ABB, I have some goals. And this one's actually the goal, the main goal, sell more safety systems. When I get my personal review, it has only one measurement, and that's how many safety systems did you sell this year. So that's number one. Increasing our reputation in key regions. That's also very important because without people knowing you sell something and that you're a valued supplier of that, you won't sell any of it. So this is important. And I also want to drive demand for the particular type of safety system that I'm dealing with. It's slightly different than some of the other things on the market. So those are my goals, just to kind of show how you think through coming up with these types of strategies. So my strategy for this year, I started this almost 2 years ago now, is to continue what's working. And I don't want to share every last secret I have, but there are certain things that have been working well. I've been doing these e-guides with control engineering. They work very well. I have a partnership with ISS Source, which actually works extremely well, although we've kind of changed tactics a little bit. So there's a few things from my strategy that I've already been doing that work great. And for this year, my new strategy is to look at some new engagement tactics because some things work well, and I feel like we have to always stay on top of the delivery mechanisms. How do I get my message out? So I'm looking at new tactics. And then here's the thing here, content. One of the things I realized last year is I kind of burned through my existing stash of content, and now I need more. So this year, I'm really focusing on content, how to get the right content, and how to repurpose that in a way that will engage my target audience, which is safety engineers. So this is my strategy. It's a very simple, but this is what I'm doing. So then the strategy, once you've decided that, then that will drive the campaigns. And the campaigns are really kind of the story. And to design a campaign, you have to know what do you want to say, who do you want to say it to. You need to make sure that what you want to say connects to your strategy. So for instance, I can give an example. You might decide you want to focus your message on integrated control and safety. This is kind of a big deal in my industry. And so you might say, okay, integrated control and safety, people are talking about it, this is important, I want to focus on this, I want to be a thought leader on this. But if your safety system isn't actually integrated into a control system, that's a problem. So that's what I mean by you have to make sure that your campaigns and your products are aligned with your strategy. And it does take a little bit of thinking. You can't just jump on an industry trend. You have to make sure your products are suitable so that you can jump on that trend. And if they're not, then maybe you want to think about some product development. So here, as an example, are my campaigns, and I'm going to drag them out a little bit just because we're going to continue to talk about them through the rest of the presentation. I have 3 things that I'm focused on as a way to drive my business. One is the integrated safety, one is safety evolution, and one is functional safety management, which is more about the standards and how you apply them across the safety life cycle. And I won't bore you with any more safety talk, but to say that looking at these 3 things are part of my business plan on how to drive growth. So that's those are my campaigns. So a campaign then is actually a collection of tactics designed to achieve your goal. And those can be things like publishing a white paper, having an email campaign, blog postings, video, all the things that the other 2 speakers were talking about are tactics. So you want to look at what set of tactics is right for your campaign. But in order to do that, you need to know your audience. For me, the safety engineers. You need to know where they go and hang out. Where do they look for their information? How do they consume their information? So I would say one of the things that we know for sure is safety engineers don't go to Facebook. So I would never have Facebook as a tactic that I want to use for my business. So we did a little bit of a study. It wasn't it wasn't a great study, but it was, I think, with one of the media partners. And we found out that our guys, our safety engineers, like YouTube videos. They like blog postings. They go to the kind of automation websites, if you want to call it that. And there's some LinkedIn groups that are extremely popular. And so those are kind of where they hang out. So the way we designed our campaign was taking those things into account. We didn't worry about Facebook and certain other things that have really, or like Pinterest. I have yet to see a pin page on safety. So it's just, I don't think it's ever going to happen. I hope. I'd be a little scared. So you have to kind of look at where your people hang out and then put those things into your strategy. Again, pick your partner accordingly. Look at your time frame and launch your campaigns. Now, you have to be consistent as well and over a time frame. When I talk about this, you really don't want to just say, oh, I'm going to do an ad and 3 blog posts and I'm done. If you really want to have any impact on your customers and really generate any kind of leads or interest, you have to commit for the long term. And I guess for us, that's, I kind of do it in year blocks, but I do reevaluate every 6 months. But you really should consider running a same campaign for at least a year, if not 2. And they can overlap, but you really should commit. Otherwise, it's not a campaign. A little bit about the tactics. Just to differentiate, product launches and thought leadership are a little bit of 2 different things here. Product launches are things like press releases, brochures, presentations, your company website, advertisements, user group meetings, sales kits, training videos, things like that. And we all have to do that kind of stuff to promote our products. That's how we get paid. That's what we do. The thought leadership tactics, for me, are more about gaining the trust of potential customers and positioning yourself as kind of an expert in a particular area. And the kind of content items, the tactics that you would consider would be things like white papers, infographics, blog postings, webinars, events, LinkedIn groups, and the content. And for me, what I would say, and I think I'm going to touch this again later, so I might, but a white paper is a very good place to start. So if you say, I'm going to have a campaign on safety evolution, where I usually like to start is with the white paper. Because once you get the white paper together, that's your story. And you can take and repurpose that and cut it up and use it for all kinds of things. And I usually make a plan when I'm starting a new campaign of, here comes the white paper, and what other things do I want from it? I want 10 blog postings, I want 2 infographics, I want to get editorial in 3 magazines, I'm going to use it as 2 presentations at this event I'm going to, I'm going to talk about it in this LinkedIn group that I belong to, and I actually literally make a schedule of who's going to do it and when and how many I need to make sure that once we get the white paper that we just don't wait a year and go, oh my gosh, now I'm not getting any more downloads. What do I do with this great content that I already have? So I try to plan it all up front. And the other thing I would say about these, and this will come out as well, is the thought leadership items for me tend to not be on ABB.com. They tend to be on external sites, whereas the product stuff, we tend to keep that on our internal site. And our marketing friends may say that's the wrong thing to do, but I would say due to some limitations that we have, it works much better that way. So what about social media? We talked a little bit about that today, and I'd love to spend my whole time talking about social media, because it was kind of funny. A couple years ago, there came a mandate down from the top of ABB. You will do social media. It was awesome. And the president of the company, the CEO, said, we're going to do social media. And then the head of corporate communications said, we're going to do social media. And the emails started flying, and people wanted us to do stuff. They didn't really even know what it meant at that time. They put up some internal blog sites, and they had a little kind of internal kind of Facebook thing going on for ABB employees. But there was zero understanding about what social media meant for our customers and how we could use it to engage our customers. It was just this focus. It was like a checkbox that somebody had on a list somewhere. You will do social media. And it was a little bit strange, but we were already, in our group that I'm in, we were already looking at what are the right things to do here. And we did a lot of investigation, and we actually had an external consultant help us a little bit because we didn't know anything about social media at the time. And the thing that came clear to me at that time is that social media per se is not a strategy, although you can have a social media strategy on how you take care of crises or what have you, but social media is not a strategy. Social media is a set of tactics. And the tactics are things like LinkedIn groups, blogs, Twitter, YouTube, sharing, online events. Social media has more to do with how you communicate your message than anything else. And I view it just like placing an ad or writing a white paper. It's just kind of one more tactic that I need to consider in my overall campaign. So that's the way I kind of position it for myself. And it's given us a lot of clarity, and it's made the whole thing a lot less overwhelming. Because in the beginning, getting this mandate, you have to do social media. I had visions of, or people in our group had visions of, we have to start this Facebook site, and we have to have this LinkedIn group. And reality is you don't. You don't have to start your own LinkedIn group. You can jump into one of the very good existing LinkedIn groups that already has 20,000 people in it and just join the conversation. So yeah, I mean, that for me is one of the big takeaways about social media is it's definitely not a strategy. And when you're trying to get involved, remember your goals. Stay focused on your plan, because it's very easy to get distracted out onto doing things that really aren't going to help your business. Tweeting every day about the features and benefits of my safety system would be a complete waste of my time. We tend to use Twitter more like, oh, did you see this cool new blog posting? Or, hey, come to Automation and Power World next week. So it's a little bit more of, did you know about this, or did you see that, or go here, or look for this over there. Not, I have line monitor digital inputs on my safety system. So you have to really kind of think about what you're going to say and where you're going to say it. And also remember here, for me this was really important, and I think for us engineers that are trying to do marketing, it's also important. You really have to remember that B2B is different than B2C. What works for you as a consumer does not necessarily work when you're trying to engage an engineer on a technical topic. So here we come. Content is king. Content marketing, blah, blah, blah. We've been hearing all about that. And I would have to say my experience with it is exactly what these guys have been saying. It's a lot about communicating without selling and giving information that makes your buyer smarter and more intelligent. And I think, and I'm seeing this, and it's interesting that I heard them saying these same kinds of things, but in different ways. But traditional marketing, I think, seems to be becoming less effective, and the kind of softer sell or the kind of content marketing seems to be becoming more effective. But the key is, again, and I just keep seeing this time and time again, is relevant and valuable information is the key. You can't be lazy. You can't just take your product brochure and repurpose it into 10 blog postings. Nobody cares. It has to have more to do with the pains these guys are suffering or things that are concerning them. How are the safety standards impacting my installed base or my system that's installed in my plant? These are the things that keep them up at night, not will my safety system withstand 70 degrees C in the desert. So we really have to be very cognizant of the quality of the information that's being produced. And just a quick example here, back in the early days of learning for me, this was probably 4 or 5 years ago now, we did a campaign that was a white paper that was a gated asset. We bought some email lists, and we had a call to action that was to request a quote. And it didn't go very well, I have to say. The content wasn't that great. It seemed like a good idea at the time, but it wasn't that interesting. It didn't engage the audience. And then the quality, the leads that were generated weren't very good. The sales guys got mad at me for generating kind of crap leads, and then they didn't like the program, and you know how it goes. It just went straight downhill. So that was kind of an early experience. And I would say the main thing, it wasn't that the paper didn't look nice or that the email address, the email list was fine. It was more the call to action was wrong, and the white paper was, I would say, a little bit lame. So a couple years ago, we did one that was fantastically better, called The Better Way. And what we did this time is we made a selection tool asset. In the process industries, one of these ongoing discussions is, should you use a DCS or a PLC? And this is a hot topic. So one of the things we did is we decided, okay, let's make a tool, an online tool, where we ask 15 questions to the user about their process, about their actual application. And then at the end of it, we'll give them a report. It'll come to them on email saying, this would be a great choice for you. This would also work well. But it was kind of a generic tool. Now, I'm not going to say we didn't have on the side which ABB products lined up with the recommendations, but at the end of the day, it was not about promoting our products. It was more about providing a tool that would help people solve this problem that exists out there. And we got a lot of response, 800, and you might go, oh, 800. But I have to tell you, process engineers, there aren't that many of them out there. 800 was pretty good. And actually, this one generated leads. So this generated good leads. The sales force did follow up, and we came up with $3 million of potential from this program in a short kind of snippet of time. And we also, in addition to this, so this is kind of the report, we also had a web page, and we made a video discussing the same kind of criteria. And the really interesting thing, and we stopped running for one reason or another, long story short, but we stopped running this campaign about 1.5 years ago, even though it was very popular. But it lives on because the video is still out there on YouTube. And just the other day, somebody who is a content manager for a large training website with hundreds of thousands of people that subscribe happened to find this, linked to it from his site, and then went into the very large LinkedIn groups and started talking about it. And I didn't even reach out to him. I don't know this guy from Adam, but he found it, liked the content, and started writing about it. And now all of a sudden, people are visiting my YouTube site. I'm getting like 3 and 4 new subscribers to that every day. So to me, this is just kind of an example of how even a dead program that has a companion piece, it can still work for you. It can still live on. So I would say on this one, this was the experience of the content was king. We had a very relevant, popular issue and a tool that people saw value in. And so that for me is the takeaway. If you're going to spend the money and the time to do something good. Just do a good job. So the conclusion here is content really is king. And not just having non-product related content, but valuable content, and not just any content. It has to be the right content. And the results of at least my experiences show that engineers value information. When I put out crap, I get crap back. When I put out something good, they're engaging with me. And I think that's really important. And also you need multiple formats. I mean, just the example I just gave. The tool is kind of dead because we're not promoting it, but the video lives on. So the more kinds of incarnations you have of the same content and the same message, the better, because you never know. And I guess that's the thing, is you never really know. So you do have to kind of plan out and execute a number of different formats. The mechanisms, the delivery also has to be different. You can have your things on YouTube, but for us, our Chinese guys can't go into YouTube. It's blocked. So you also have to put everything somewhere else, abb.com or some other place. You need multiple formats. You need to deliver in various ways. The stuff has to be accessible and easy to find. That comes a lot to the things the other guys were talking about that went straight over my head about tagging and all these things. But you do have to not only put your content in a place that's easy to find, you have to make sure to tag it correctly, make sure it's going to be able to be found on Google and all those good things that I know nothing about. And we were talking about this at lunch. Do not expect direct interaction from an engineer. I'll say it again. Do not expect direct interaction from an engineer. They will not do it. They are shy. I don't know exactly what. But the thing I've been finding is they won't come to the blog that I have and comment. Occasionally, very occasionally. What they will do is share. So we just recently implemented the kind of sharing functionality in our blog, so you can share by email, share on Twitter, whatever. And just even in the first week, I've got more shares than I had in almost 2 years of blog postings as far as comments go. So I would say this is a little bit of a thing I knew in my heart was true, but I just am experiencing it now that They will share and they will forward and they will help the message kind of get out into the world, but they don't want to interact with you directly, really. And then no one size fits all. So you have to know your business, your regions, your products, and understand that even though you make a plan, a strategy, it's not going to be good for everybody. The thing I noticed at ABB is I have a very well-documented strategy and a tactical plan. And when people find out about it from other business units, they're like, oh, let me have it, I want to. And I'm like, I'll show it to you, but don't try to copy it. It's not right for you. Everybody has to go through this process on their own. So really, no one size fits all here. It's very important that everyone do the thinking and get through this. Okay, so I know you've all been looking forward to this part. Here it comes. Here's the hairball. I know you can't see it very well, but what I would say is this is kind of a visual representation of everything that I've just been telling you about. And this is very specific. And one of my big kind of pet peeves about an event like this is that we get a lot of good information and it's very overwhelming and I don't know where to start and it seems like a lot. And I know this probably seems like a lot, but it really isn't. And you can start small, and I'm going to explain a little bit. This is ABB.com. This is my safety web pages. And I have my product stuff here and some of my white papers. I have a knowledge center on Control Global, which has a safety tab. And I've had that for very many years, and it's a place where I can put my stories that's outside of our corporate network. And I can focus more on my thought leadership items, how the standards impact you, the benefits of integrated control and safety, whatever it is. So I have this, and then I have my safety e-guides. I now have 3 of them on controleng.com. And these and then I have our PA Insights blog, and I have a safety topics section here. So these 4 things are kind of the places where my content lives. And I would say that's a great place to start. You have to figure out where your content lives. And then you can start thinking about other things. So once you create your content, like here I have webinars. So webinars have the same topic as the e-guide and as a white paper. So the webinars, though, feed here back to the safety web pages. They're also connected to the e-guides. So when you look at, or when you go to the webinar, you get the information about going here and here. When you go to the websites, it has links to go here. Ads, of course, you'll find them in our e-guides, but then you'll also find them in the magazines. The white papers, you can get to those from the Knowledge Center. You can get to them from ISS Source. YouTube videos feed back and forth to a number of these things. So I think of this thing as being literally a web on the web where I can snare my customers, because not all customers are going to come to ABB.com. And I would say many people don't go there because we're so big and huge with so many products. My stuff is buried in the bowels of this website. It's hard to find it. So if I have basically my same message on a Knowledge Center, on ISS Source, on YouTube, on Control Engineering, if I tweet a little bit and talk about the stuff on the blog, it all ties together and it all has the same message. And eventually, even if someone doesn't go to ABB.com, they might run into what I'm talking about over here, or see my webinar. And so the whole idea is to take the same message, the same content, put it into a form that's suitable for YouTube, for the Knowledge Center, or for a blog posting. And you don't have to feel bad about reusing the same content, because the same person doesn't go to all these places. Everybody has their favorite. Some people love to come here to Control Engineering, and then other people love to go over here. And I would say nobody loves to go to ABB.com, but people want to go where they want to go, so you need to be there. So that's kind of my message, and that's what the hairball is all about. Does that make sense? I know it looks ugly, but I would say if you start with the basics, you can build from there. And if you have the plan and a list of these tactics, like what do I need to produce and when and where do I need to put it, you can actually just start working through it. It's really not that bad. So the results so far, I've done a lot of these things. I've got a plan. I've got a hairball. So how'd the hairball work for me? So we've had some winners and some losers. I showed you my losers and my winners. And you can't feel bad. You're going to have losers. I mean, not everything works. You have to try. And I would say you just have to try things. That's why I'm a big fan of kind of the small tactic, because you can try and fail and not spend too much money on it, but you've had some good learning from it. Good content generated really good results, so I think that's key. You have to have a plan. The social media tactics are working. And there was some discussion at lunch also where some of the guys were saying, yeah, social media is dead or not, no one's talking about it. But I would say the opposite, that the social media tactics are actually working really good for me. Because especially in my case where people weren't finding me on ABB.com, this gets me out. My message is getting out. And it's actually working really well. So after 18 months, I have some results. My sales were up 45%. I'm not going to say it has really a huge amount to do with the marketing, but I'd like to believe at least some of what we're doing was helping the sales. We have a higher ranking now on unaided recall surveys. We were ranking very low from a safety business point of view, and I won't even say how low, but we rose up 1 whole point, and I was very proud because that's not that easy. And I hope to be up another point next year and maybe another point the year after that, and then we will have accomplished something. And I would say also engineers are still a mystery to me. Some things work, some things don't. You never really know, but I would say that trial and error is the best way to kind of figure it out. I think I didn't mention, let me see, there was one thing I really wanted to make sure I mentioned. Let me see, final thoughts. I want to mention one more thing. This is a little bit off topic on the social media tactics. Management they love the idea of social media because it's free, so to speak. There's really not much you have to pay for. But remember this, social media is labor intensive. Somebody has to take the raw meat and make it into a suitable blog posting. Someone has to do the tweet. Someone has to make the video and post the video and make sure the sites look good. So if you're going to do social media, make sure you have a plan for taking care of it. The worst thing you can do is to start a blog and then only have 5 posts and just let it hang out there, or have a YouTube site with 3 videos and you never put another new one. It's not easy, but I would say plan for what you can do. And if you're going to do it, make sure you execute and just continue to take care of the thing. I think that's really important. So my final thoughts, and this is really funny, marketing to engineers is part art, part science. And I believe Jim had that also somewhere in his presentation. But I think that's pretty true. Don't be tempted to get cute with your content. Cute content does not work. B2C stuff does not work. Random acts of marketing definitely don't work. So be smart and just remember that the content is really the thing for engineers. And don't be afraid of changing the tactics. I keep saying that, but I think that's really the key too, is measure everything you're doing and throw out the stuff that's not giving you the results that you want. Chaos reigns supreme, and just what I mean by that is you're going to have to do a lot of things. We're at a point in time where you're going to have your content in a lot of different forms, on a lot of different places. You're going to have to connect it all together. It's going to look like a mess, but I think you will see the results will come. You just have to manage it. And be practical. I mean, don't bite off more than you can chew, and make a plan that you know you can actually execute, and get your partners involved. Don't underestimate how much they can help you. Getting advice from people that work in the industry is really useful, and it's helped me a lot over the years. And I believe that is all I have. So I overran, I'm sorry.